I would have to say my own personal level of maximum ability. What can I do? I mean, I know there are days where I just look dog tired, but of course, like, I have like a wristband for it. One more rep. Can I get back up that 10th time instead of that 9th and keep going and actually be able to technically completely do whatever the exercise is asking me to do? It's one of those things that mentally I've always stuck to.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Basson with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Chris Mitchell. Welcome, Chris. How are you today?
Doing great. How are you?
Just got done with what was it, 11.3 or something?
11.3 probably, 5-minute.
5-minute AMRAP of squat clean thrusters at 165 pounds. For those of you who've been around long enough to do it the first time, I'm pretty sure probably the top billing that year was what would be almost considered mediocre these days.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's always fun to watch those numbers. But welcome. We always like to start off and just kind of get to know you a little bit more. Where are you from?
Originally from Lexington.
Lexington?
Born and raised. And went to college in Louisville, came back to Lexington for a job, and ended up moving up here to the Northern Kentucky region about almost 6 years ago.
Are you? Did you go to U of L?
Yeah, went to Louisville.
Yeah. How does that,
Sorry about that, guys.
I was saying, how does that
Saturday?
How does that sit with people here? Because I know there's some people that are non.
We have some respectable rivals. I ended up getting a good laugh at the halftime celebration during this past football game. The funny thing is that my mother will actually dress all to the nines: earrings, turtleneck, sweater, socks, and just to let you know where you went to college.
That's funny.
It was a full ride, Mother.
There you go. No, that's great.
I don't know what to say here.
Let's start with that. How'd you get a full ride? What'd you go to school for?
Just for academic. Actually, went for psychology. Graduated with a BA. Realized during my high school career in athletics, I wasn't going to get a scholarship that way. So I went ahead and just left football to pursue kind of bump up my grades, make sure they were polished up enough. And, UK offered a partial scholarship. U of L offered a full ride. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Growing up in Lexington, though, were you like a UK fan, or were you always kind of Louisville?
I'll admit, I always respected the UK basketball program.
Sure.
The fans are passionate, to say the least. So I was
careful now. You're
toeing the line.
You're in shallow waters there.
I know. That's why I was like, they're passionate. I just could not fully commit to that.
Being from Cincinnati, and I'm sure Mark can attest to this, being from northeast Ohio, even just across the river, like I had no idea that this existed as far as the UK craziness.
Yeah, as soon as you're across the border, it's
pretty insane.
Yeah,
that's pretty insane.
But
back to you, sir. Back to you. So you moved up here. Did you move up here for a job?
Yes, ended up moving up here for a job. Just needed a change of atmosphere, and also my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. Hi, Jess. moved up here to be closer to her.
Okay. Yeah, is she from here?
Yes. She's originally from Erlanger area.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I thought you had something to say.
Oh, no, I was just going to basically say that she comes to the gym as well, and it's been obviously a pleasure getting to meet and get to know both of you, which are awesome, but obviously we'll get into more of that. How'd you guys meet? Is there a story behind that, or is it just like, we kind of met? Yeah,
first time in my life, had the guts to actually initiate the conversation.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a big step.
And then I didn't hear from her for a couple weeks, and then I was on a business trip in Austin, Texas, and she actually finally texted me back. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So of course everyone's in her, hey, what are you doing? We gotta hang out. It's like, I'm taking care of something here. I gotta say something. So
yeah, yeah, that's funny. So moving back here, you said you wanted to basically dropped off out of football. What did you play in football? What position?
Oh goodness, I was almost in every man. Mainline offense, it was running back. Started at linebacker on defense, played some corner, and then ironically got moved to defensive tackle. So I was just that one short guy taking out the legs so the linebacker could finish the play.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
What so when did you kind of make that transition from basically going from pursuing maybe an athletic scholarship to a academic one? Was that just senior year? Was it?
It was towards the end of my junior year
Yeah.
because I also had a job at the time,
Right.
and it was basically time for me to have that kind of meeting within myself to where it's like, okay, I need to make sure that my priorities are straight. I don't feel like I'm going to see too much success on that level with it. So I wanted to make sure that because my grades were already there. So I just want to make sure, hey, let's make this package a little more attractive since I know I'm going to have to sell myself to universities at this point. So
Sure. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's
Is
very
that-
mature for a junior in high school
Yeah.
to realize that. I don't, what your, again, the influence from the parents was like. Mine were always just basically like, get a 3.0 or above. It's like A's and B's. And for me, being an athlete or whatever, in high school, and I always just assumed like, oh, I'll get a scholarship and that'll be the way. And little do you know, like, it's always a 20/20 vision, after the fact. And when you get to college, like, man, this is really expensive. And any type of scholarship would have been, especially a full ride. I'm going through it right now with my wife at a full ride academically, and I did not, and I'm still paying my, student loans where she's all paid off, because she didn't have any. And it's puts you in a dramatically different circumstance. So kudos to you for recognizing that early.
yeah, the word loan was something that I did not even want to be a part of. Like, what can I do to minimize or eliminate a loan?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Real quick, if you guys are watching, there's a giant wreath behind Chris. We did decorate a little bit for the holidays, so in case you're wondering what that is, aside from the punching bag that's appeared in the last couple episodes, but wreath and punching bags.
Props.
So you moved up here. What job are you still currently at that position that you moved up here for?
No, it was I took a position at TQL, Total Quality Logistics. It was mainly to, sort of begin working for myself in that kind of broker style atmosphere. And I would say after about a good year and a quarter, almost a year and a half, realized that type of sales was not my personality.
I heard that place is pretty cutthroat.
It can be.
You guys step over your grandmother's grave sometime.
Yeah.
I've heard of people doing that, and I'm just not like that. Like,
Right.
hey, let's have a conversation. Let's talk this out. What can we do to help? And it's like, no, we got to do this. Like, we can find other ways to to help out people with
Right.
that part.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've moved on from there.
Actually,
Since then.
yeah, that was a funny thing. Actually, with Mom, when I graduated, I realized that despite my degree in psychology, I realized that I liked computers. So, of course, my first job was actually at Gall's back in Lexington. They were a supplier of police, fire, and EMT equipment and apparel. And I started in customer service, worked my way up to, you could say, junior manager level, and basically sat there and was sitting there thinking, where's Chris at? It's like, oh, he's mentoring or training someone, or he snuck down to the IT department again. That was usually me. If you couldn't find me at my desk, I was down with the IT people.
So where are you at now? Because I want to get to maybe a little bit what we talked about downstairs, and what direction you're going. Is that your full-time kind of drive right now, or do you have a job on top of your other endeavors?
I've been taking contract jobs doing IT consulting, and actually made the jump a few months ago to pursue a passion project and make it into a company. Life Portal Pro.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I pulled it up real quick, so just a quick read through. So it's a Life Portal Pro supports inclusion by providing access to our world-class curriculum games, embracing inclusive participation in our games, and offering support to educators through consultation by team members. So it sounds like you're building, you're revolving around this. I like to educate people.
Yeah, I've always liked working and coaching kids. Part-time, I've even done Pee Wee football coaching. I was intense with it last year. This season, I couldn't do it so much just because I wanted to pursue and actually build up this company here. And with that, I wanted to take that approach and actually make it into something fun and interactive with children and also young adults.
Yeah. So maybe explain the premise a little bit and kind of maybe either the reasoning behind it or what's it kind of going to look like. So, because I think a lot of people, they think of, there's a lot of learning-based games out there, learning-based kind of almost game-driven learning, so to speak. What makes sure it's a little bit different?
Yeah, gamified learning is definitely a trend that is ramping up. The one problem that I have seen with that is while they are definitely working on the academic side, with the growing dependence on technology, hence how we're even doing this podcast today, a lot of those practical skills are being overlooked or even being lost. They're not even taught in school or even, dare I say, at home.
What kind of practical skills are you talking about?
A couple examples would be basic laundry 101, how to organize your laundry, make sure you're having the right settings, building a fire, reading, basically.
I think you said like changing
statement.
a tire.
Yeah,
like,
changing a tire
like
as
that.
well.
Yeah.
I feel like is lost. And whenever you originally told me about this, I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense because, we just went on a kind of a men's retreat, if you will, camping for a couple of days. And I know I don't have camping experience or anything like that, and again, gun to my head, like without a fire starter, like I wouldn't be able to start a fire. And again, I don't think a lot of people necessarily would be either, even if you are experienced with a lot of that stuff without the basic kind of modern tools, if you will, with all that stuff. And then even just safely changing tires and stuff like that. And again, if you can teach kind of the youth how to do that early,
Definitely.
It's definitely a good tool set to have.
There's obviously even, being over the age of 30, there's going to be a generational gap between 20-year-olds and myself, and that's why you saw that, what was it, that Dirty Work or Dirty Jobs, Dirty Jobs, that show. Why that was so popular, because, it's people don't think about that stuff has to still be done. If you get a flat, you have to know how to change your tire. And that's fine. You have AAA. If that's totally fine. But some cases you might not be able to use that, or you're going to be waiting 3 hours to change a tire.
Exactly.
When in reality, it might just be easier to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
No disrespect. I love YouTube, love Google, but what if you are in that situation where it's not easily accessible, where you have, or
you went over your data.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do at that point?
There's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
So in a fun and controlled environment, either at the school or at home, you can actually work to develop a more well-rounded individual and let them grow into that, as an adult.
So is the program just on a kind of web-based platform, or is it like hands-on plus interactive learning?
Phase 1 is going to be more of a web-based platform, so it'll be actually, more or less like your standard 3D casual game. I want to put it at phase 2 at this point, is actually working into a more, putting them in a more virtual reality setting. So now they're building the muscle memory with it.
And that's going to be huge. And I don't. One of the things that I'm really intrigued with these days is virtual, VR. And how fast do you see that really becoming and again, I don't have a pulse on what the curriculum is these days as far as in schools and where we're at with technology as far as the younger kids using it to learn in a classroom setting. But like, how far are we kind of away from VR in elementary and a middle school and a high school setting?
I am working to make that push to kind of ramp that up.
Yeah.
It's slowly seeping into the schools. Just that by actually introducing a game around it, that's sort of going to be the easy way into it. Like,
it's like
hey,
a low
play
barrier
a video
for
game.
entry kind of thing.
Exactly.
Where I love it. Yeah, because I mean, in any of the things that you're looking at now, I think I would have to imagine that cable is at an all-time low as far as like televisions are basically they got to be losing money in some regards in some markets. I'm sure. Obviously, they still have a place, with streaming and so on and so forth. And then you look at obviously how far the cell phones come, but I feel like this next big step is this voice automation, type stuff like this. You're looking at Amazon, what they're doing right now. We're sitting here in Northern Kentucky. They're putting in a 1 million square foot building, I believe, over at the airport.
Yep.
And their CEO just passed $100 billion in net worth. And, again, it's based off these kind of new platforms. And when we look at one thing all individuals have in common, and this, ties into CrossFit a little bit, is time. It's our only unrenewable resource. So it is literally the most important thing we are gifted in this life. And so many people are, wanting to move at that high pace environment. Again, you go to New York, you're like, oh my goodness, like, what is going on here? And, I think that's kind of sweeping across the country. And what I love about your idea though is, as fast as everything is moving and we're getting more advanced and so on and so forth, you have that that ability to see that, guess what, guys, we're still going to need these basic skills, and these are
absolutely,
as advanced as we get, you're still going to have to know the basics. And to
kind of take it even full circle, that's sort of why let me take it even a further step back. I started CrossFit mainly because recovering from shoulder surgery, and I felt challenged because everyone's like, oh, you're not going to be able to do CrossFit. You just had shoulder surgery. I'm like, watch me. Yeah. And then with that, I started noticing that there was inherently a lot of skills that I could improve upon on a minor level to help improve myself overall. Again, a good lifetime goal that I want to reach, turning 35 at the end of this week, is to reach regionals.
Wow.
I still want to do that. And that's the approach that I'm taking with Life Portal Pro, is basically, we can work to build up these academic skills. We have 90% of people aged 25 to 29 who have a high school diploma, but they barely understand how to read their own financial statement.
Right.
They're not really good with public speaking. They can type LOL, but can they actually carry on a conversation, build up those other skills?
Sure.
Why not build a more well-rounded individual in a fun format with that, similar to what we do here in CrossFit?
Yeah, you're almost like butting up against the high school, whatever you want to call it, agenda. You can get into politics and all that stuff, and as far as what they're actually teaching and educating everyone on. And I feel like there's pretty unanimous consensus that man, I really wish someone would have showed me how to do my taxes, or exactly. I really wish someone would have.
Yeah, what's a 1099? What's a W-2?
Instead of building a birdhouse, maybe if I could have learned how to change a tire.
Yeah.
Or like you said, even just little life skills like the laundry, or how many parents that are probably listening to this that have a kid in college are like, oh my god, if they bring one more load of laundry home, whenever they've got literally laundry 3 doors down in their dorm, they just literally don't know how to set. There's 5 choices.
Right.
At a minimum, just put it on cold and throw it all in.
There it is.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is even with voter registration, despite my wanting to learn even through other nonprofits, the Kentucky State YMCA is a nonprofit. They put up debatable conferences, and I was really active in that in middle and high school. I got to actually practice a lot of public speaking and do a lot of things and give back to the state and community through them. Not a whole lot of other kids got to do that. And in addition to that, by the time we got to 17, I did basically know what to do in terms of voter registration. Today, not a whole lot of people do. It's like, hey, just register to vote. Like, what do I do?
Right.
Yeah.
Or what is the basic tenets of a Republican versus Democrat versus Independent?
Sure.
So that is also another part of it, is the
I was guilty of that.
Sponsors that way.
I didn't. I think the first election I could have voted in when I was 18, and I didn't know how to register. I didn't actively seek out I go online and Google it like everyone, every what you do every scenario now, you don't know how to do something, Google it. And again, we're talking 2004 or whatever year it was, I believe 2004, And I'm like, oh, like I think I'm registered. Like in my high school, senior year, we did this like thing in my history class where we filled something out. Like I think I'm registered, but then when I went away to college into a different state, it was like,
what do I do?
Do I vote in Ohio? Do I vote in West Virginia?
Right.
Like what's going on? So
Or
it
you're
makes
still registered to vote back home, and you're like, well, missed that election.
I'm 2 hours away, and I mean, like, I love all these like kind of, I mean, again, we live in a country that supports freedom, but at the same time, it's like we're not educating people on like how to express it sometimes,
Well,
from a voting or taxation or
and a lot of it is information overload.
Sure.
Who's the right one out of everyone?
Well, and just with any scenario, you're inundated with I mean, information all day long, and it's almost, a lot of it's almost trivial pursuit knowledge, versus like, again, like, how do you change your oil?
Right.
How do you change your, I'm just speaking car terms because I do a lot of stuff on my own car, but it's like, those are all things that I just learned how to do. And a lot of it, I'll admit, was the benefit of something like a YouTube or something like that. But going back to what you're trying to do is, if you're including that in a scenario where you can learn and play a game at the same time, it's not, oh crap, I have to change my oil or I have to change my brakes because they're grinding on metal on rotor. It's, oh, I learned how to do that last month, and now I know how I have this knowledge.
Well,
Exactly.
And I would hedge my bets that all like middle school, high school kids aren't actively seeking out videos on like how to fix stuff. They're probably watching like
watch any of
videos.
Watch any of those videos. Instructional videos is usually older people. I don't want to say older people, but you're middle aged, late 30s or early 40s, and then they start to put this information out there.
Yeah.
But you look at the videos that have your 12 million views, and it's like why? Why is this? Why is this popular?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we even make fun of this situation where, unfortunately, people aren't learning those life skills. You seen that Liberty Mutual commercial?
Yeah.
Where the kid, hey, I called Liberty Mutual and got my kid fixed. Kid's tire fixed, so he was able to drive home. It's like, is this a lock wrench? And he's sitting there doing cartwheels in the background. It's like, yeah, sure. We know there's a problem there. We know there's a gap.
Well, and I think that's this is going to be one of the deepest political / societal podcasts we've had. That goes deeper. That goes deeper into like the problem that you see with what they quote millennial. It's like, well, they have no life skills. I'm like, yeah, yes and no. They just have a different skill set. That skill set is, they can show your mom or dad or your grandma or grandpa how to use any piece of technology that's ever been made.
Sure.
But when it comes to this a manual or physical skill set, a lot of it's not there. You are seeing an uptick in trades and things like that because a lot of people are in the same mindset you are, where it's like, I'm never going to take out a loan. It's almost a trap at this point. And there's a huge market to make a fantastic living. You can support your family. We have a lot of people at the gym who are in a trade field, and it's not like they're dumb. I think that's like the general mindset for people. Was like, well, they couldn't go to college. Like, no, these are highly intelligent people.
Exactly.
That can prevent you from killing yourself in a certain situation if you try and do it yourself.
We literally had a gentleman this morning after our first class. There was a door that was a little like loose downstairs. Went to his truck, got his power tools out, and was like, yeah. This like all of a sudden I hear power tools going off, and I'm like, oh. He's like, oh, your door was loose. I just fixed it real quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap.
Life skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for most people, it's like, well, I'll live with this creaky door for the rest of my life. Like,
Right.
no, it takes something. It takes a
It
different.
literally
to
took
fix
him
it, yeah.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was boom, boom, boom. And again, to your point, I know that obviously individual, and guess what? He grew up with his dad that did construction. If I'm remembering that correctly. But either way, he was exposed at an early age of how to do stuff. So his brain actually processes stuff differently to where I know Jarrett, obviously we're partners here, but we obviously think differently about things sometimes where Jarrett changed my brakes the one day. It was like, oh man, dude, thank you so much. Like I had the wedding coming up. We were strapped for cash, and it's like, man, he saved me like $100,
Yeah.
to where, unfortunately we've all had those interactions where you actually you don't have maybe a good solid inclination on what's going on with the vehicle. You take it to the mechanic, and then all of a sudden it's like, that'll be $1,000, when really, it might have been,
It's 150.
yeah, 150. Because unfortunately they, and not bashing them, they have to get theirs, or whatever you want to say. But at the same time, it shouldn't be at the expense of your, your hard-earned cash.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to take
Yeah, we
jobs
went off
away
on a
from
tangent.
people.
We went
Yeah,
off a
sure.
tangent there a little bit.
Oh, no, you're fine. Like I don't want to take jobs away. If anything, I want to promote those apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Find those
Oh,
actual
yeah.
skills, because my uncle, he's a tailor. He opened his first shop at 19 years old. He's 65 now.
Awesome.
Almost refuses to take on an apprentice just because, quote unquote, they don't get it. He's tried, and he's
a one-man band. Yeah.
He has been, and I learned how to dress myself because of him. Like I know how to put my suit together thanks to him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know that at all. And that's the other thing, is kind of even circling back into the CrossFit arena here. That's where those overall skills, those other skills, can help bolster up and make you a more well-rounded individual.
That's what I'm pretty excited about. Being the CrossFit is at most 17 years old. The not that the stuff hasn't been around, but the term, I'm sure the LLC, it's been around for 17 years, almost 18 years now. So at most, you have people that have been doing this for, your 17, 15 years, something like that, versus Mark and I have been doing this for 8-9 years, somewhere around there. And the exciting part is to see is when someone's started when they were 19, and they now have accumulated knowledge at the age of 60, that then you can now pass on, because that's what you're already seeing in this leap from, we just talked about it, the very first CrossFit Open, 165 pound squat clean thrusters,
Right.
till now, where people would demolish that top open score just 5 years later, 6 years later.
But even the most exciting thing for me personally is like whenever they're 50 years in and they're in an aging population kind of bracket, and you're still like, wow, you still like can do stuff.
Yeah.
You have longevity in life, and that's what you reap the rewards. And that's kind of what I went off on a tangent, but I was beating around the bush with the mechanic stuff. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Like the longevity of life should be about like, hey, look, you've built this baseline, not only of, obviously we're talking about fitness with CrossFit, but what you're talking about, Chris, is just general knowledge. So whenever you do, have to go to this place, that place, or the other, and see an expert and support small business for sure, you're not feeling like you're being taken advantage of. You're like, you know what, hey, that actually does make sense, as opposed to, oh, we gotta, give you a whole new engine. It's like, I came in for a flat tire,
Right.
So it's one of those, it's just one of those scenarios, because again, I think knowledge is power, and is we are so well connected with the internet and so on and so forth. It's just, unfortunately, there's so many people just use it to kind of mess around on, with social media. You get, all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at this cute cat. And then
Down the rabbit hole we go.
3 hours later, you're like, what just happened?
We touched a little bit on CrossFit. I want to take a quick break and come back and talk about how you came to us, and then even just a short time you've been here, where that's already started to take you.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
We'll be right back.
Well, I didn't really start exercising much at all until I was probably in my late 20s, kind of mid-children. I was a big runner for a long time, did 7 or 8 half marathons. I loved running. At the end of my last half marathon, ended up with a stress fracture in my leg. Finished that half marathon, and of course at that point it was like, well, I can't run because I have a stress fracture, so I was looking for something different. One of my friends actually worked out at Covington, and I went there with her and fell in love with it. I started there about 3 years ago, and then I came here about 2.5 years ago, and I've been here ever since. It's very different than anything I've ever done. Little weights in the gym, like when I used to work out at LA Fitness, but nothing to this extreme, nothing to this level. And I do it because you hate yourself while you're doing it. You question your sanity, but when you're done, you feel like a whole new person. Definitely stronger. I definitely have more stamina. I feel better all the time. I sleep better. I make myself eat better, because if I don't eat better, then I feel terrible when I'm here. I have a pretty physical job and surgery, and so it helps a lot with that. But just being strong overall helps every aspect of your life. With your kids, I have a 10 and a 14-year-old. You can be super active with them. It's good for your mind, it's good for your body, all over. And I'm definitely stronger at 40 than I've ever been in my life. I like clean and jerk. I like split jerk. Not a big fan of the snatch, but I like to lift heavy overhead. That's my jam. Oh, absolutely, you're going to be nervous because you don't know what you do. You don't. I mean, you watch people and you go through the on-ramp class and you know the moves, but you have no idea what weight to use. You have no idea, getting all the equipment out and everything. But the good thing about this is that everybody's willing to help you. The coaches are awesome. They're going to tell you how to scale something if you're injured. They're going to tell you how to start things light, because the last thing you want is an injury. So there's really no reason to be nervous. There's always modifications. Everybody here is fantastic, and they'll help you get through it. I think you get a major accomplishment anytime you PR. I mean, the first 2 years you're at the gym, you're going to PR all the time, and you kind of think, oh, I'm just going to keep getting stronger. I'm going to keep getting stronger. And then you'll hit a plateau. I don't know if it's an age thing or if everybody hits a plateau. But then when you do hit that next level, that even if you PR just by 5 pounds and you hit it, you just feel like you won the lottery. Since I've been here 3 years, practically all of my best friends have come out of this gym. I've developed so many relationships. My husband comes here, we work out together, but I have several of my very best friends now that belong to this gym. I love this place.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Everyday Athlete podcast. We have Chris Mitchell with us here. We left talking sparsely about how Chris came to us into CrossFit. So I want to kind of dive into that, because I remember you coming in for your first, maybe first or second. I don't know who had you the very first day. But I do remember talking to you a little bit. Was it Mark? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you came back.
I know.
But I remember talking to you, and you're at the time going to a boxing gym, and your grand ambition then was you wanted to go into boxing, and this was going to help you kind of gain speed, agility, strength. Is that still a goal? Has that kind of shifted?
It's pivoted slightly.
That's fine. Yeah.
So
that's what we see a lot of times.
Right. So that was the thing with boxing. It was sort of number one, and CrossFit was number two. It's now shifted to where CrossFit's number one and boxing is number two. While I am working on those fundamental skills and getting better, getting faster, understanding, my own body in relation to, let's just say, this bag right here, the main thing for me was wanting to just be an overall better athlete. I was always decent with sort of what I call the static strength exercises, like a back squat, deadlift, bench press, but I wanted to be better at overall moving that into a more kinetic movement, taking the static, moving into a kinetic. A little bit of a nerd. Always like Batman for a reason. If Batman was a real person, I'd love to shake his hand.
Yeah.
And it was just basically in order to do, to be able to do those athletic things, because everything I wanted to be able to do out there, carry all the groceries in one setting, just being able to help lift and help contribute overall more physically, mentally, and socially. I feel like I get that in here through CrossFit. And it was also, the challenge. Like, hey, let's do a muscle up. Have you ever done a muscle up? Never even attempted this in my life. And then, of course, thanks to you guys.
You did one first try.
Yeah, I was about to say.
For all you guys who have been doing this long enough, and you see people who struggle with certain things, and Chris is just one of those guys, like, how do you do that? Okay, is it like this? And then he just does it. It's pretty insane.
He did like a muscle up into like an iron cross.
He did like an iron cross, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still working on that. Removing.
Yeah, I'd rather just have an iron cross, Chris.
Yeah,
if I can just stand there and just Vince,
still holding,
just Vince
still
Vaughn
holding.
It.
Chris
Yeah.
is like maybe 1% body fat too, so. You know what I mean? You walked in with a pretty good skill set, so whatever you were doing before was definitely working. And then I love hearing, again, just kind of the theme I feel like almost on the podcast today is just being, more well-rounded.
Definitely.
I love that.
I will say that's the one thing that I will always, dare I say, not trying to get emotional for a second, but the one thing that my parents and my brother and my uncle have always worked to instill in me is always have that iron will, never give up. And I'm usually, I'm not the tallest person in the world. And I almost prefer to kind of be, especially when I'm working in a day job and also with Life Portal Pro, I want to be, hate saying it this way, but the dumbest guy in the room. I consider myself intelligent, but I want other people to be as intelligent, if not more intelligent than me. That's the only way we're going to get better.
I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that. I mean, you can correlate that to fitness too.
Yeah.
If you're working out with people that are fitter than you, ultimately, they're going to push you.
Yeah. That's why I look for Scotty. That's why I look for everyone else. And I love to even dare I say, hi hun, push my wife, just because I know that she's a champion and I know she can do it. And
I love that.
She surprises me every time.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, so you guys started. So she came shortly after you started, correct? I mean, because you were here for a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, I started in April and she started in mid-July.
Yeah,
so almost 3 months.
You did the hard sell there for probably about 2 months. It sounded like, and eventually she came in, I think, a couple Saturdays, and then ended up doing the fundamentals, and it's been awesome seeing you guys together, because and again, it's not getting on that tangent again, but you guys clearly love each other, and it's really cool to see that through whenever you guys work out together, because you can just, it's apparent, like you can see it from, like, she's got your back, you got her back, like if one of you is struggling or whatever, you guys are there to just kind of pick each other up. So it's really honestly fun to watch.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of sleepless nights with with this building up this company, and thankfully she's there. Like, hey, were you able to get this done? Were you able to get it that one extra rep for your pitch? Like, I think so. I'm sure. I only got an hour's sleep. Let's go do this again.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah. What's the next step for? You talked about pitching and things like that. So where's that going as far as where it's at right now? Where you want to take it?
Right now, the current step is wrapping up the polishing up the website a little bit. We're working to put a demo out. It's going to be a semi-interactive demo that we're going to put on the website, and it's going to be demonstrating just how to build a fire. I feel that's a universal enough skill to just demonstrate the capabilities of what we can do with the game itself. From there, bootstrapping. Looking for investors.
Yeah, if you speak to watch any survival show, talk to just about any of those survival. It's A, the number one skill, and B, it's having, if you've never done it before, it's one of the most satisfying things you can possibly do is start a fire. I don't know.
You remember Tom Hanks at a Castaway?
Yeah,
Fire.
I'm sure it's something primal inside of us. Building a fire, but yeah, it's a great starter, and I think that again, it's a cheesy word, the catalyst.
Exactly.
The catalyst to kick off something bigger, but. Yeah, to teach people something that they can walk away with and use. That's in a way parallel to what we want to do. Is you should be able to walk away here with something that you can use, maybe physically, maybe mentally, maybe emotionally, in a different situation. We are in the world of functional fitness. So a squat clean thruster may not seem like a whole lot, but on moving day that Mark has coming up here, I guarantee you he's going to be using hamstrings and using his hips to drive heavy couches up and over railings and things like that.
Real quick to that point, just in our space, we are kind of spoiled with a lot of strong individuals around us at all time. I was talking to my sister the other day on the phone, and we're moving a week from now, and she's like, "Yeah, you'll just have to obviously find some people that are strong enough to carry the referring to like furniture." I'm like, I don't think that'll be a problem, So it's one of those things where you don't always think about that, but when you're blessed with certain gifts, whether it's intellectually or just physically, it definitely helps whenever I'm on a second story apartment and I got to move a 100-pound piece of furniture, and I actually know how to lift with my legs, not my back.
Right.
You know, it's because I feel like we've all known those people that, like old Uncle John there threw out his back, moving the TV.
Yeah.
Or
picking up a pencil.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because that stuff is real. Where, you're just in the improper position for a long enough period of time. And unfortunately, those things, like I was in the shower and try to get some shampoo out and just throw out my back.
Oof.
It happens quite a bit. And what we try and do is instill that kind of proper movement, proper body function throughout everything that we're doing, and in order to use it in somewhere else.
Well, again, you're talking about primitive things like starting a fire and so on and so forth. Like, to get real, functional fitness, like, we were designed to do these things, like carry things and put them over our head and squat down and pick
we're just
stuff
putting
up.
it in a sporting event.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you need that competitive exercise to boost the intensity, but in a realistic thing, I don't think we were designed to, curl a rock 100 times and fill a bicep pump.
Yeah.
And again, that's to each their own. Like, bodybuilders look great, so on and so forth, but I'd much rather be flexible and not have tendonitis in all my joints.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's kind of the one thing that I've always appreciated about you guys, because the first event that I ended up watching was, I want to say, the 2015 games, and I was sitting there thinking, those guys are awesome. Even the ladies are awesome.
Oh,
my God, they could sit there and just completely blow me out of the water. I thought I was cool, but nope.
Yeah.
And it was, that competitive drive to be better and actually to, do those things overall, day in, day out is literally the number one reason I keep coming in here.
Yeah. What's a favorite and most hated movement that you have thus far? So you've got April, so June, July, August, September, October, November, and then in December, you've got some months under your belt now. You're at this kind of what we usually see is this ramp up of like everything's amazing, and then you start to find like, wow, I really hate doing these.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's something you really like. I'm sure there's some things you don't like.
They're the GHD sit up. That was, I saw it. I'm like,
Chris, you don't need more abs if you want.
That was it. I saw it, I was like, ooh, what's that? And you guys are like, nah, you don't want that. I'm like, yeah, I do. And of course, I love doing those. It's kind of like a nice little endurance style workout, but yeah, it burns after that. Right.
Yeah.
And then
just an endurance. Yeah. Just do 1,000 of them.
If you're listening, don't do 1,000.
Don't do
don't
that.
do 1,000.
Don't do that.
Don't do that at all.
I will say, right now, the humorously hated one, just because of the technicality and also just kind of the mentals here at the shoulder, is still the snatch.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks to you, I got the a PR, but then again,
that's where most
we're
people are
caressing
at.
those pieces.
That's where most people are, because again, that's why we have a designated barbell club.
Sure.
I think there's room for something like a designated gymnastics club, but just when it comes to the technical side of things, putting a bar in the right place for a split second so you can do something else in a very short or a split second.
Yeah.
It's something that you just need reps under. You need reps under your belt. You need thousands of reps under your belt. And just to, props to the few that have stuck with us from the very beginning since we started doing this in like 2014, having 3 years under your belt versus someone who comes in and they might be immensely stronger, but you just watch the fluidity of their movements and the gracefulness of their movements. Like you just can't teach that.
Yeah.
Some people pick up on it quicker. It takes some people longer, some people shorter. But when it just comes to experience, when you watch at the top level, you're like, how does he get, 200 kilos, 440 pounds overhead? And it's like, well, let alone the fact that he's unbelievably strong, but it's just they've been ingrained in this movement for so many thousands of reps.
And I think, speaking to those people that probably started coming from CrossFit into barbell club, I don't know how big of a commonality you see, in training the barbell club almost daily. How many of those people you usually have to take weight off the bar? And like, all right, we're gonna have to take a couple steps back and just really drill position, drill it. it's like that, what is it, 10,000 hours or whatever it is. It's like, all right, 10,000 reps. What number are you on? And here me and Jared are sitting, 8 years in to Olympic lifting or whatever it is. It's like, I don't know, what are we on? Like 5,000, 6,000? It's, for me, I've been coaching the morning class with squat cleans for part 1 and then squat clean thruster. And I have to remind people like, hey guys, the mistakes that you're making right now, less than a year in, I'm still making, occasionally. And maybe it's not as much. Maybe I don't bend my arms early as much anymore, but it still happens. Do I still get my hips all the way open on every single rep? Probably not. So it's one of those things. It's just like you're always chasing that mastery. And 100,000%, if you're in barbell club, like anytime I see those people come back into the CrossFit classes and we're doing like an Olympic lift, I'm like, whoa, like what have you been doing? Like, oh, I was in barbell club.
I've just been doing this.
Exactly. You've been practicing more. It's just like any skill in life, like you're talking about making a fire. Like, guess what? The first time you try it, probably not going to happen.
Going back to the car would be a perfect one. If my dad's listening, I'm sure he'll love this because it cost him like $900.
Oh boy.
I remember I was changing my oil. It was an 89 Corolla. I had like 200,000 miles probably on it at the time. It died at 240,000. But I remember probably over torquing or
too much torque.
The oil pan bolt, and I pulled it, and then all of a sudden oil started coming out. Well, I stripped the weld that held the plug in for the oil pan, no. And so there's nothing holding it in.
No way.
Oh boy.
So I just filled it up with oil and brought it up to a mechanic, and they had to put a whole new oil pan. And it's like, it probably totaled the car. Stripping one bolt probably totaled the thing, but at the time it was like, well, we have to get this fixed because it's like one of those things you live and you learn. And there at the time, 16 or 17, there's not the YouTube and all that. So I've got, they still make them, and it's pretty cool. It's just a book per car, has everything, every bolt, every nut, every how to change the radiator fluid, transmission, whatever it is. So I'm following step by step. But it's like that last thing, tighten the bolt up, good to go, and snap.
Cool.
But if you can learn the right way the first time instead of trial and error, bring it full circle back to what we do. I've made a lot of really dumb mistakes in CrossFit. I've thrown a barbell into my face snatching a bar.
Guilty.
Concussed. Probably should have had stitches, just super glued it back together. But
rub some dirt on it. Let's go.
Let's go. But here's the thing, and put some tussin in it. Chris Rock.
I think that's what we try to get across to our members. Is don't make our mistakes.
Don't make our mistakes. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like I know sometimes it seems like if you guys are listening, it seems like hand holding. It seems like we're trying to hold you guys back, but it's because we've been there. I'm currently nursing a hip for like the 3rd month in a row because 3 or 4, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't do things correctly. And now I'm reaping the disadvantages of not taking care of yourself. So whenever it's take the weight off the bar or get a band out or do it this way, it's because we've done things wrong. So
that's one thing I've always liked about you all is basically it's the preaching of the mantra live to lift another day. Is you all are investing in us.
It's a long game.
And I greatly appreciate that. On a cosmetically similar situation, I'm doing that with my company and also really myself, because I want to live to be 130 and still kind of still run a little bit.
Right.
I want to be able to do that. I want my kids to be able to do that when I have kids. We're still thinking about that.
Okay, that's fair.
But we're getting there. And of course the kids that I work with, day in, day out, I want them to be better.
Sure.
I always want them to always think of things and be better and work on other pieces.
We got a delivery.
Delivery, man. But yeah, it's those things right there that I always want to work on to always be better. If I can just be 1% better than I was the day prior, fantastic.
Right. I love that because that was honestly the first thing, if it wasn't apparent for everyone else, like that came to mind whenever you kind of pitched the game and talked a little bit about it, like, man, he really cares about society and making better people. And I want that to be in our message too. So that's why I love that you're, talking to this story. And, honestly, if there's anything we can do to help this agenda move forward, like I think he even said, like, hey man, we could sponsor the fitness portion or whatever. Like, man, I'm all in on that, because when I look at what Triumph is, we're just, there's a couple different ways you can spin it, right? We're this little gym in this little town in Kentucky, or we can just try to be, what I want to say, like, I think, Coach Glassman put it best. I think I said this on the podcast once or twice. Like, we're fighting disease, and we are a life raft, and we're trying to save as many people as we can and create as many kind of lights in this community that is Florence, Kentucky, or wherever, people are from, to inspire other people that they can do it. And you know what? Life is super short. And it would suck to go through it without basic skills that we find necessary, or just basic, kind of fitness metrics that whether it just helps your heart rate not be so high, or look a little better, or just move a little bit longer through your life. And I feel a great responsibility with that. I don't take this position lightly. In fact, me and Jared, we work our butts off, frankly, and I know you do too. So I really applaud you for, having that mindset, man. And it sounded like it's just always been that way, for you. So I'm sure you've done a lot of great things already, and I'm excited, because you are definitely, it comes through, very highly intelligent young man. Still, I can't believe you're 35. You look like you're like 25. So anyway. But yeah, man, I think, while we're on this planet, I mean, we have a responsibility to try to do good. And, I think that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I always want to have fun, to even get into that whole longevity piece, to kind of speak personally for a second. My own father passed away at 42, heart attack. To this day, I still don't like Halloween. I'll try and get out. Hence why I came in as Rocky for a little bit, just to kind of not think about it. Yeah. But it's mainly to be there past that age of 42. What can I do to offset as much of that in my own family history as possible? Sure. What can I pass on to my kids? What can I leave for my kids? When I do have them. And it's it goes, same goes in here. It goes to everything outside that I do out of here. What can I do to help contribute and make sure I'm delivering maximum value to everybody?
And it's legacy, I mean, it really is. When you talk about having kids and like what can I pass on to the next generation, or so on and so forth. And it's, man, it just, you talk about simple basic principles that people are forgetting in this day of age, where everyone has a voice that is, a keyboard on the internet, troll, or whatever you want to say. Like, it was like the thing with the Super Bowl halftime, with like people were criticizing like Lady Gaga for like a gut or something. It's like, come on, are you kidding me?
She's unbelievably talented.
But it's exactly. I mean, and she pours her heart and soul. Like that was probably one of the best moments of her life, and you're gonna try to take it away from her. Yeah. Anyway, but again, I'm master of the tangents today, but. And I kind of lost my train of thought, but basically, I totally lost it. Sorry.
I think what it comes down, when you talk about people having a voice, everyone obviously has a voice right now, and unfortunately, when you get wrapped up in how do I attract more followers or more likes or whatever it is, people don't tend to gravitate towards things that are what you would consider overall good. It's more like what's going to be funny or sexy, or it's almost viewed like hate will overpower good, but we all know it's the opposite. But it's the easy go-to, I guess. No one wants to play the long game. Yeah. No one's playing the long game for anything. Right. And that's really what we're talking about. It's like, and I don't. People think it's. Might take it as a money grab or whatever it is, but whenever someone signs up here, it's like, I don't care about what you're going to do in 3 months. Right. And that sounds bad, but I really care about what you're going to do in 5 years from now. Right. Because you're going to make some short-term gains in 3 months. You might see some body composition changes. You might learn a few things here and there, but like it takes a long time to go from however sedentary you are to active and mobile.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
like
It
takes a
an
very
overall
long
process.
time.
And it's a big commitment, and a lot of people will get some bumps and bruises along the way and feel discouraged and fall off the wagon and try to get back on. And it's life. It's like a microcosm of life. You know, like you said, like, hey man, like I went to college and I took out loans, and like I didn't realize what I was probably doing at the time, which is my own fault. I blame no one else. And whenever that day hits you where you're like, oh man, I'm X amount of dollars in debt. Holy crap, and I have an interest rate on that, and it's compounding, and whoa. And you get like a nice punch right in the face. And then you're faced with a decision. And guess what? Nobody cares as far as your own like personal things. So guess what? You can either throw yourself a pity party, or you can dust yourself up and be like, you know what? I got to get 2 jobs and get through college. I got to work a little bit harder. I got to, maybe treat people a little bit better. I have to not make it about me. I have to make it about these people and how do they get better, and not, take everything so personal. And everyone has their own shortcomings, but, what I was trying to say earlier, I lost my thought, is just treating people, you talk about basic skills, just treating people with respect, and I feel like, it's just, again, we're bringing up politics again, but it's like, whether, it's that time of year or whatever it is, it's like you can't, you talk about like a platform like a Facebook or whatever it is, you can't pull that stuff up sometimes without just seeing all this negative, like mudslinging and all this stuff. And that's personally why I don't even watch the news. Like I hear my news from the people around me. Like if I need informed, I'll be like, hey guys, what's going on? And, it's like, oh, there's an little shooting. And, and then it's like everyone wants to tell you their opinion about like guns or whatever it is. And that's all good. And I'll listen to it. But it's usually, it's that person's fault or this person's fault. And I love that you're trying to take an active role in making a change. So many people want to give it lip service and say the right things. They're like, yeah, they shouldn't do this, or they, this side shouldn't do that. It's like, all right, well,
it's like shut your mouth and be about it.
Yeah, do something. Take an active role. And it's, to me and Jared's credit, like not a lot of people want to take, a big pay cut and start a gym and then work, more hours and so on and so forth. And again, we don't have the hardest jobs in the world by any means, and there's people out there doing way more than we are, but it still took a lot of guts, to do it. And it's kind of like you. It sounds like you have this kind of good thing going where you're doing contractor work, and now you're like, I'm about to go all in on this one thing, and I believe in it, and it's going to work, and it's going to do good. So, yeah, man, I love the story.
What so where can people find you?
You can find me online at wcubed.lifeportalpro.com. Also on Facebook at LifePortalPro, and on Twitter at pro_portal. Okay. There's my email on the bottom of the website, camitchell1982@gmail.com.
I don't know if you can link that up or whatever in the.
Yeah, I'll throw that on there.
Also, speaking of the kids around here, because I know we have a bunch of families with kids.
Sure.
Guys care to be a first beta customer?
Yeah.
Or to have the kids entertained and start learning stuff?
Certainly. Yeah, no, we'll definitely get that
Absolutely.
rolling. We'll have some. You mentioned having a console or something downstairs, so.
I was gonna think of I'm working to get one in there. Because we're keeping it web based, I may have to probably pull off probably like a Fire Stick or something like that.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that'll work.
Whatever we can do.
That'll work just fine.
Yeah.
And then our I like to always kind of finish things out with a pretty simple question, and that's just what is your definition of fitness?
My definition of fitness. That's a fun one. I've honestly never thought of that. That it's maximum. I would have to say my own personal level of maximum ability. What can I do? I mean, I know there are days where I just look dog tired, but of course, like, I have like a wristband for it. One more rep. Can I get back up that 10th time instead of that 9th and keep going and actually be able to technically completely do whatever the exercise is asking me to do? It's one of those things that mentally I've always stuck to. Like, can I just get up one more time and do this? Can I get up one more time and actually accomplish this thing? You know, and that's something that I've always worked towards. I feel it's been a defining trait ever since I was 13. So it's one of those things I really love to do. And I take it in here every day, leave it as much out as I can. And of course, I'm always asking you guys, did I do this right? Was it there? And you're like, try this other part. It's like, okay, got it. So, you know, every day, can I get better? Can I do better?
I love it. I love it. It's a fantastic answer. And thank you, Mr. Mitchell, for coming out today.
Definitely.
And,
thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
Awesome
all.
job.
Thank you all for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of those who make us great.